Hello everyone, this is Marco and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you episode 3 of the Hammond Correction series. It is a series where I will be photo editing pictures of the Hammond Collection Mattel dinosaurs to make them more screen accurate. Make sure you don't lose part 1 and part 2, where I talked about the Ceratosaurus, the Baryonyx and the Parasaurolophus for episode 1. And for episode 2, I talked about the Velociraptor, the Gallimimus and Dilophosaurus. In this episode, I will cover the Triceratops and the Tyrannosaurus Rex. As this is a premium collector's line as advertised by Mattel, we would expect more screen accurate sculpts. And this is what they should look like. So, the Triceratops is not too bad. It does have a couple of issues that the fan base seem to have with this figure, and that includes the lack of an articulated jaw, and generally the size of this figure is way too small for what it should be. As this is supposed to be a 1/18th scale figure, it should be much bigger. Those are the problems that stand out the most, but I'll go more into detail of sculpt accuracy and such. I'll be using the Jurassic Park Trilogy Dinosaur Style Guide as reference. You can download the guide for free. Links are in the description. Okay, so starting with the head, it all seems okay at first glance, but then I noticed that it looked a little bit weird. The more I looked at it, the more weird it looked. So this is it with better proportions. And you can instantly tell that some proportions are really off, unfortunately. It's not really that screen accurate, and that really does take away from the collector's feel of this figure. It's not bad, it could be a little bit better. This one, like the Parasaurolophus, but not as extremely, does suffer from the bee sting syndrome. The head is way too wide, and the cheekbones should be poking out a lot more. It almost looks like they didn't have enough reference images from the front, so they just kind of made it up. Also, that theory stands because at the top of the frill, the central spike is missing. There should be a little horn spike thing. Yeah, it's missing right there in the middle. So, the shoulder is way too high too. It should be much lower. Unlike Mattel's theropods, this Triceratops is too thin. If you look at it down from the top, its thighs are way too flat. Once you compare it to the reference material, you'll see what I mean. Proportions wise, it's almost like Mattel sculptors have a quick glance of the source material and sculpt the main shape. Then they take a much closer look at the detail and sculpt that accurately. I was taught that before you move on to the detailing, you need to nail the base shape first. The tail is too droopy. Now, I don't blame Mattel for this because there isn't any reference material for the first Triceratops in the first film. The only reason that I know this is through sources, by talking with people who actually worked on the film. Making the tail shorter and a bit higher was like a last minute design decision, which is another reason why Mattel should definitely try and hire someone that is close to the community and knows these dinosaur designs really well. As we know, Toy Monster International does hire people from the community and they pay close attention to what is accurate and what isn't. Also, the legs are way too long, they should be much shorter. So this is the end result. We could go a step further and make the paint scheme accurate too. Jurassic Park fans also know that the original paint scheme for the Triceratops is different. It looks more like this. We all know that the animatronic in the film was covered with dirt, so the brown color is only from the dirt, and it's not the actual color of the animal. The new Triceratops that Mattel is going to release, called the Habitat Defender Triceratops, will be much bigger than this one, and it will have an articulated jaw too. So that's super exciting. Now let's move on to the next figure. I'm sorry to say this, and a lot of you are going to hate me, but this Tyrannosaurus Rex figure isn't amazing. It's been overhyped, and it's just not great, man. This is the icon, the face of the franchise, and it needs to be the best one that Mattel's ever going to make. But unfortunately, it's not very accurate. I can certainly say they tried, And they tried to make it special, something that the other figures don't have, like the glass eyes and more rubbery bits in the mouth, which on paper sounds really cool, but it just doesn't work really well. So for this correction, I'll be using the style guide again. If this was in the main line, this would be a really solid Tyrannosaurus, but again, this is a premium collector's line as advertised by Mattel, so we must treat it as what they meant to be. The overall head sculpt is pretty much the same as the extreme chomping one, but with refined bits. So the jaw shape is slightly different, but the main major design features like the bigger scales are in the same spot, in the same place. Here is an example of how the jaw looks different from the two versions. They tried to fix that design, but it still needs a bit more fixing. The jaw is still not the correct shape. So the main parts that I was talking about that are the same from these two sculpts are these ridges here and these big scales there. So it's just proof that it is a retooled sculpt, not a completely brand new sculpt, which as a designer it is totally fine. It does speed things up and it does show effort on the part of Mattel to actually try and improve the sculpt. Kudos to you, Mattel, for trying. So about the jaw, if you look at it from the front, you can certainly tell that the jaw needs to be a little bit wider. Even the top jaw, the cheek, could be a bit wider too, and the bottom jaw should pretty much meet and be level with the top cheek too. The bumps on the snout are a bit too pointy, they should round them off a bit, and if they make the teeth a bit thinner, that would be great too. The eye is quite divisive in the community. One of the main issues is that the color of the eye and the pupil are way too recessed behind the plastic dome. So when you tilt the figure, you can barely see the pupil at all. And in some cases it looks really distorted, and in some cases it looks like a slit pupil. What makes a glass eye special is that the pupil looks like it's following you. But when it's too recessed, then it just disappears. It makes the figure look like it's blind or kind of possessed. The slit pupil is iconic to the raptors, when the Tyrannosaurus has a pretty much perfectly circular pupil. So it kind of takes away from the overall look of the dinosaur when it's the iconic dinosaur of the franchise, and it's just not been executed very well. The way the mouth opens is quite unnatural too. The top jaw rotates more than the bottom jaw does, and it kind of gives it a dislocated jaw kind of look. The pivot point should be at the same spot as where the bottom jaw and the top jaw meet at the back. So this is what the film version would look like if it had the same sort of pivot point and rotation angle as the Mattel version. As you can see, it looks really strange. A lot of people have been complaining about the teeth because they look too chunky. In some cases, the teeth on the Hammond Collection figures are actually thicker than the ones for the kids' toy line, which is super strange. So the teeth should definitely be a lot thinner. When they're cast out of rubber like they are on this collector's figure, even if they are sharper and thinner, it's still bendy enough for it to not hurt anyone. The only reason why they are thicker in a toy line is for safety reasons, which is kind of ridiculous on a collector's line. I find that for the main kids toy line, it's okay to kind of change the aesthetics and sacrifice the aesthetics a bit for the function and for safety, but that should not be a priority on a collector's figure. Aesthetics kind of come before everything else. So now let's apply all of those changes to the figure. And this is what it should look like from the front. It looks mean and a bit less derpy. You can also see what I was talking about with the lower jaw being too thin. Also, the nostrils should be positioned a bit lower. And now let's take a closer look at it from the side. There's just so many little tweaks that need to be done to make this look really accurate. There's just so many to list, and they're all quite minor, but once you put them all together, it looks so much better. So the shape of the chin, the teeth, look at that, it's got a really weird big back tooth. The shape of the jaw. Let's talk about the belly texture. Okay, so the belly texture is not great. I can see they kind of tried, but it's not really that great. If you want a good example, look at the Thrasher T-Rex from Kenner. That has the perfect texture for the underbelly, and we have a lot of reference for that stuff too, but Mattel just didn't go and do it very well. It just looks really soft, and it doesn't really replicate what we see in the film very well. The one in the film has got more of a symmetrical pattern, while this one on the Mattel figure is a bit too soft and a bit all over the place. On this dinosaur, there should be some bigger scales at the top of the legs right there, where the hips start. The thighs are way too thick on this, ridiculously thick. Should be much thinner. Like the front bit of the thigh is kind of cutting it close, but the back part of the thigh is just way too thick. The feet, well, the feet, we all know the problem with the feet. They're way too big. Really big. Make them much smaller. So this is it with the incorrect proportions, and this is it with the correct proportions. As you can see, the feet are smaller, and look at the thighs, man. The thighs need so much shaving off from the back. And to anyone that says that it needs big feet for it to stand, it really doesn't. I have proved it many times. So here it is with the actual smaller feet standing perfectly. The base of the tail is way too circular too. I don't know why they do this. It's a thing that a lot of manufacturers do. The base of the tail is a circle, but the torso itself isn't a circle, it's more elliptical. A circular base of the tail makes it possible for the tail to spin around, which makes no sense at all. It is not screen accurate. Tails don't swivel like that. So why go out of your way and modify and take away from the aesthetic of a design to give it a posability feature that it doesn't need in the first place? It's just nonsensical. From the top view, this is accentuated by the fact that the base of the tail goes out, and it looks really odd. There's many more changes to make, including the shape of the chest, but this is the Mattel version, how it came out, and this is the revised version, with proper proportions, with smaller feet, a better head sculpt. It's night and day difference. Please, Mattel, listen to your fans. They're your customers. I just don't understand, man. It doesn't make it more expensive to make a better proportioned sculpt. It really doesn't. So please, if anyone from Mattel's watching this, please don't make them goofy. It works for the main line, but not for a collector's line. It's because we love this franchise and we love your products that we want them to be better. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.
I would like to give a massive thank you to all of my Patreons. Seriously guys, your support really does mean the world to me, as it helps me do what I love for you. You help me buy materials, and most of all, you give me a helping hand with improving the quality of the content of my videos. Even if it's just a small donation, every little helps. If you like my videos, please press the like button. And you could consider subscribing. It's free. Oh, and don't forget to press the notification bell button, because you don't want to miss any of my new stuff, right? I'm gonna say bye now, because when you gotta go, you gotta go. I will see you in the next one.